when you are breeding, are you in soil, cocoa, hydroponics?
Well, soil. It's a bit of a mixture. I know I'll probably get ridiculed for this because I've seen different sides of it, but I'm kind of using, I guess it would be a bit of a three-part. It's already a pre-mixed soil. I just recently added like some cocoa in it, so I kind of like broke it down, and then I have perlite where eh, I don't know if it would still be defined as soil less or whatever. I know some people have referenced to it as, but that's just my thing. It's just like the three-part. It's very light. Adding the extra cocoa in as well with the perlite. So yeah, but yeah, soil nonetheless. I know I'm getting into specifics and whatnot.
Oh, let's get into specifics. So what was it, like a brand of bagged soil that you mix with the cocoa? And what's the ratio between soil and cocoa and perlite?
So I would just say it's just a three-part, so 1 part soil, 1 part cocoa, and then 1 part perlite. The what is it? I want to say it's Earth's Forest or Earth's Floor or something like that. It's the green bag that I think you could probably find in every garden store that's in your local neighborhood. So yeah.
Okay, so 1 to 1 to 1. And then what do you use for nutrients throughout the growth cycle? And how do you go about those feedings throughout the growth cycle?
Do we have to name, we talking name brands, or are we just talking?
Yeah, if you talk name brands, that'd be helpful because the folks do like to have the details. Now, if you don't want to reveal anything, by all means, you don't have to. But
hey, it's more so because I feel like I'm gonna get lit up in the comments with it. But I use general hydroponics honestly because it's the most cost effective. But I really just use their base veg. For veg, I add the silica. I also supplement the CalMag, the micro, and then I also throw some sugars in there. I forget the name of it, but it's pretty much at the end of the day, it's like a cane sugar base along with some blackstrap molasses and, just the basic stuff, try to keep it basic. A little bit of mycorrhizae in there throughout the process and just to keep it going.
So I assume you're following the general hydroponics feeding chart. Are you doing the full dose according to what it says on the chart? Are you doing a half dose or what?
In all honesty, I couldn't tell you what it says. I know I just use the 5 milliliters, of every single one that I use. I throw it together. I do it all together, so I call it I think we call it the swamp juice, if I'm not mistaken, me and my buddy. But, yeah, just mix it all together, 5 mLs each. And then it's every other feeding. So pretty much give it the Newts 1, water it with just some sugar, and then repeat.
Are you doing the same type of ratios for plants that you're growing for flower production, for example, versus a run where you're creating seeds? I know some people, what they'll do is they'll just stay on that veg ratio while they're creating seeds for the entire run, for the whole flowering period. And then they swear that helps with healthier seeds. Just wondering if you did that technique, or did you just stick with what the feeding chart says for most flowering parts, where it basically knocks down the nitrogen and increases the phosphorus and potassium?
So yeah, when we switch over to flower, it's pretty much obviously I'm not feeding it the veg newts at that point, which is pretty much high in nitrogen and everything. I switch to the flower base, and that's the major thing that I use. I guess the major difference. That's it. Everything else is pretty much the same. And there will be at some point, I say roughly maybe 6 to 7 weeks, I might up the dosing of the phosphorus, which is pretty much the flower base, instead of from 5 mLs to 10. And then I'd say it's usually about, 2 weeks, about a week and a half. At that point, I'll just switch to pretty much, the water and sugar, and that's pretty much it. I've never really done anything. Have I known for that to, I guess, help with any healthier seeds or anything like that. I've always just try to keep it as basic as possible and repeat, and if I do try something, it's always maybe a little bit here, a little bit there, instead of just diving into it knee deep,
Got it. Yeah, I've mostly just been doing, I have a seeded run, a breeding run where I've crossed a male and a female, or pollinated a female, and it's creating seeds. I have mostly just been following the feeding chart, where it does kind of, when you get into the flowering, it's reducing the nitrogen, increasing the phosphorus and potassium. But this run in particular, actually working on F4 generation of Shillet OG. And this run, I am kind of sticking with what it says for week 1 flower, where it kind of knocks back the nitrogen, but not as much as it does later on in flowering. And I'm just sticking with that for the entire flowering stage. And so far, so good. I mean, I've got a couple weeks left here until I harvest. And the true telling will be once I dry and then crumble up the flowers and see what does the seeds look like? Are there any underdeveloped seeds? What's the percentage of developed seeds versus underdeveloped seeds? So on and so forth. So yeah, I'm personally doing a little experimenting there when it comes to the nutrients and how I do my feedings.
So let me ask you something. Do you find when you have a plant that has seeds in it, it takes longer to mature, or does that affect anything for you as far as the development time?
100%. Yeah, I push it further in order to try to get more seeds developed. So like right now, if I was just growing the females and just harvesting the buds, I'd be harvesting them right now, but I'm going to push it additional weeks in order to try to get more seeds out of it. So I am starting to see the fade on the plant, like normal senescence that happens towards the end of the growth cycle. I'm keeping a close eye out for nanners to potentially pop out. Nothing so far. But yeah, I push it a couple more weeks in order to try to get more yield of seeds out of it. I think a lot of folks do that, and I think it's a smart way to go about it. Just got to keep an eye on making sure, like, because seeds will drop off the plant, right? So like it continues to grow and calyx open up and then the seeds drop. So if you have a whole bunch of plants in the same grow space, well, the seeds are dropping, you might get mixed up on what's what. So you don't want to go too long because you're going to have all these seeds all over the floor. But yeah, I definitely push it a little bit longer than I normally would with just a female plant that hasn't been pollinated.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
This clip was brought to you by AC Infinity. Use discount code MrGrowIt15 to save on any of their gardening products.